and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 484. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
Saturn, I'm all caffed up. Got all caffeinated between the shows.
Yeah?
It's my third cup of coffee today. I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight. But who needs sleep when we could talk about the shit that I did this week? That's right. I segue into my week now. You can't stop me. I've had too much coffee.
Oh, no.
Just the silent disappointment.
Oh, it wasn't silent.
My week. I finally deployed my Raspberry Pi 5.
Nice.
I picked up one of the 8 gig models I think it's been like a year now.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I remember you saying that you had bought it, and I didn't realize you hadn't yet used it for anything.
Well, I didn't have anything to use it for. Like, I got it, and then I was like, awesome, and I installed PiOS, and I was like, all right.
Now what?
I could look at the Reddit on it. Like, there, you know. But I think what happened was my SD card on my current Pi 4 home server finally kicked the bucket, and it was several years old. You should, for people that don't know this, for mission critical SD cards, you should image and replace them once every couple years. Also just keep a backup.
Yeah.
Because SD cards only last so long. They have so many write cycles before they just go kaput.
Also, just keep a backup of everything.
Yeah. So I set that up, and I started going down this rabbit hole because I was downloading stuff. I was downloading offline versions of Wikipedia and Project Gutenberg, and I checking on all my ROM archives just in the event that there's
normal things. Yeah,
internet related disaster. When stuff happens out here, our internet goes pretty quickly.
Fair.
Sometimes when stuff doesn't happen here, but it happens where my radio antenna is pointed to, then we'll lose internet even though our house is fine.
Nice.
And I think I've just kind of had hurricane on the brain lately and thinking about do we have a few days worth of food and water if something bad were to happen, like a tornado or something?
I sure don't.
A volcano erupts in the living room, or
normal things to stress about.
Yeah, dinosaurs explode out of the crust of the earth and begin devouring humans. Am I prepared? Am I prepared for these situations, Saturn?
These increasingly plausible situations. Yeah, I'm with you.
You know what's weird is YouTube has decided that my favorite videos in the world are self-defense videos.
Okay.
And I talked about this on Talking Wizards, and I watch them. And it's always stuff like
that's
how
why
to defend.
Decided that because
they're how to defend yourself in if you're attacked with a knife wielding assailant in a bus, but you're covered in blood. And they're just so dumb that I watch them and I'm like, this is the dumbest thing.
Did you ever? There was an article Sean Baby put out years ago that was some of the worst self-defense videos that you could find.
I've not seen that, but there's a lot of them, and they're easy to find.
And it's unfortunate because a lot of the videos he references have since been taken down from YouTube for copyright claims.
Yeah.
By the self-defense people. So you can't watch them, but one of them was this dude Bass Rutten, who was a MMA fighter or a wrestler or something.
Yeah.
But he's trying to show you, he's in a bar, a closed bar, and he's trying to show you how to defend yourself in a bar fight. And he's and if they try to pull out a knife, just grab their wrist, twist the knife around, stab them in the liver. And me and the people I was watching with, we were all oh my God, what is this guy doing? And he's and if they tried to headbutt you, lean back, headbutt them again. And I'm this isn't self-defense. This is murder. You're teaching people how to murder someone.
Well,
and at one point he grabs somebody's head and slams it into the corner of a table for a while.
Jesus Christ.
It's just intense.
So a related YouTube community is the disaster prepper thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And for whatever reason, anytime you watch one of these disaster prep videos, they're always are you prepared for an EMP blast? That's always the thing. That's their number. They're never tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, whatever, acts of terrorism.
When
they're
is any of that gonna happen?
They're are you prepared for an EMP blast? I'm like, no, I'm not prepared to be the main character in a Ghost Recon video game. I'm not prepared for that. Anyway, so I was just, I went and I we have like a little bit of food on hand, and I had like a couple jugs of water, and I checked, and one of them had leaked and stuff. So I went out and bought some like actual water storage containers. So we have like a week worth of water on hand. Because our water treatment plant, whenever the power goes out, they're like, hey, don't drink the water, which happens frequently enough that it's a concern. I just got some like canned food and stuff on hand to have in our we have like a little room under our stairs with a weather radio. It's like our little tornado room.
Your Harry Potter room.
And I was like, I should probably also like have some offline versions of stuff, because like if anything were to happen, because like the cold snap's a great example, and that happened a few years ago in Texas. Like, it happened, and then you're just kind of stuck at home bored for a week.
Right.
And I was like, well, I should probably make sure we have things like, Wikipedia and books to read and games to play in the event that, something does happen and we're just kind of stuck.
I just
somewhere.
had to keep working.
Yeah, that's awful. Our internet was out the whole time, so.
Yeah,
no work for us.
I had no power outage, no internet outage, and so I was the only person from my office who could keep working. So they were like, please help us. So.
We had power and water the whole time, but our water plant did not have power. So they're like, yeah, the water's basically just sewer water coming back out. So don't drink that.
Oof.
So that sucked.
Yeah.
Now, anytime, I know we're off on a complete tangent for like 10 whole minutes at the beginning of the show, but anytime there is anything happening like, oh, there's a tornado, or like, oh, it's going to hail really bad, Courtney goes and fills up the bathtub. Every time. And she's like, there, we've got that water if something happens. She's always concerned about the water in the house.
I can't blame her.
It's, like, I probably don't want to, it's not my first choice to drink, but you use a lot of water for like washing your hands and stuff, brushing your teeth, totally. Anyway, all this to say that I went out and like got some extra provisions just to have on hand in case anything were to happen out here.
That led you to setting up a Raspberry Pi. That's what you were trying to get to.
Yeah, and so this led me down the road of like make sure I got offline versions of stuff. My Pi 4, the SD card kind of kicked the bucket, so I did finally upgrade my home server to a Pi 5 8 gig model, which is probably utter overkill.
A bit.
But the amount of like out of memory warnings I get on my Pi-hole because of all of the traffic my network has, maybe not overkill.
I pretty regularly have 40 devices connected to my Pi-hole, and I've never gotten an out-of-memory warning.
I have. I get warnings on my Pi-hole where it's kind of struggling for resources, Weird. And I've had that on a couple different Pis now. So I don't know if maybe I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Granted, I only use my Pi for that. That is its only purpose.
Oh, see, mine's also my regular network file server.
No, I use a different machine for that because I don't want to task the Pi-hole in any way.
No, I had my Plex on it, but I had to offload that to my desktop. So my desktop just network maps my, Pi file server and then runs Plex off of that because it was struggling to even keep up with some Plex streaming across the network. I
have a separate desktop that I use for Plex, and it effectively serves as my server for everything else, file server and all that. But the Pi exclusively just does Pi-hole and nothing else.
No, my Pi it does a few different things, so maybe that's what I was running at. Anyway, upgraded to the Pi 5. It's good. I like it. I got the official cooler. It's really cute and snaps on, and it's very nice. And I know that some people are a little annoyed that the Pi 5 kind of requires cooling, but for the purposes that I've used Pis for, they've always required cooling. So having good, cheap, official cooling systems is just nice. I like it. It was like $9.
Yeah.
I also, the new TMNT game coming out on Steam and Switch and everything else that was previously, I think, on Apple Arcade, TMNT Splintered Fate, Splintered Dimension, Splintered something.
I didn't even realize there was another one.
There is. It was, I'm pretty sure it was Apple Arcade. It was very clearly was a mobile game just by the interface when you play it.
Right.
And I thought it was like an ARPG, and it is not. It is like a straight up Hades clone. It is like, hey, this is exactly Hades, except it's got 4-player couch co-op, 4 different playable characters because there's the 4 turtles, and there are turtles instead of a grim, dark Greek god's son complaining about being sad.
Yeah.
And it's real fun. I mean, like it is Hades. Like it's It's Hades.
Nice.
Exactly Hades, but with Ninja Turtles. And it's if you liked Hades, but you're like, yeah, I liked Hades, but it was a little too grimdark and or too difficult, then this is that, but a little easier and much more lighthearted.
Nice.
And so I'm kind of looking forward to it. Now, it was one of those games where they announced it and I saw it and I was like, I don't know, it used to be a mobile game. I'm not sure. And it's actually pretty cool, pretty fun. I also like that the versions of the Turtles in it are the IDW Comics versions, it would seem. And I enjoy any time we get to see a version of the Turtles that is not the 80s cartoon version of the Turtles.
Right. Yeah, I remember you
Because
were
I'm just
pretty vocal about
I'm
not
so
liking
sick to
that.
death. They're the worst versions. That show sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong. I grew up watching it like everyone else in the late 80s, early 90s. We were required to watch it except for Saturn.
Yeah, I chose not to.
And it was just, God, it was a piece of shit. So it's nice to see non-80s cartoon-looking Turtles. I enjoy that. So yeah, if for anyone out there that liked Hades or just likes Ninja Turtles, it should probably be on your radar.
Nice.
I don't know how many Hades clones we've gotten since Hades, but this one is like the most direct clone I've seen since probably the last Slay the Spire that I played.
Nice.
But it's fun. And the demo is pretty lengthy. I probably got like hour and a half of playtime out of it.
Right.
So it's pretty fun. So yeah. What have you been playing, Saturn?
The new Silent Hill.
Oh, they
So-
made a Silent Hill 5, 6, a new one?
11.
11?
I was looking back. The last time there was a new release in the Silent Hill franchise was 2012.
But does that count skateboards?
It does not count skateboards, unfortunately.
Okay.
However, and I remember when you and I and Andrew started recording the previous show before we did Retro Warriors, that other show
Yes.
that is lost to time. I remember the very first episode of it we recorded was at your wife's old apartment,
uh-huh.
and we were all sitting around a coffee table with a Yeti
Yes.
mic, just
Yes.
talking into it. And I remember talking about the then new Silent Hill game. And this is the first time since then I've been able to say that.
Yeah, I was at my girlfriend's apartment in college recording with you. Now I've got a 9-year-old daughter and I've been married for 10 years.
Yeah. So that's
let
how
that all
long it's been
sink
since
in.
I've been able to play another Silent Hill.
Oof.
Yeah, so I'm going to start by saying it's good. It's real good.
Yeah.
The team in Poland and Ukraine who worked on this remaster, huge props to them. They have captured everything they needed to capture to make this a good remake. That said, let me talk about how broken the PC port is. So I tried to play it in Linux and it would not get past the very first copyright screen because it was going so slow that screen that's supposed to stay up for like 3 to 5 seconds was taking like 4 or 5 minutes to move on to the next screen. And I thought it was just like a Proton error, that Proton was broken, something was wrong. And I tried it in Windows. It ran fine. You know, it went right past it, got to the title screen, all that stuff like it's supposed to do. So I was like, all right, it's clearly a Proton issue. And I'm sitting there fighting with it, trying to get it to run it all in Linux. And I realized if I drop it down to 1080p and kill both of my other monitors, it runs fine. Like nearly 60 frames per second as I'm playing the game.
All right.
And I'm like, but if I want to play it in 1080p, I'll just live like a caveman and pull out my PS3. So instead, I go into Windows and try to play it there. And I had previously gotten it to load to the title screen. And it was fine. I get it to load to the title screen. It's fine. I start the game and it immediately drops to like 10, 15 frames a second. And this is
Okay.
This is not a bad computer. It's an 11th Gen i7 with a RTX 3070 video card. This is a good computer. Like not top of the line, but solid.
Right, but enough to handle this.
Yeah, and it can't. It cannot. So I dropped my Windows machine down to 1080p and it runs okay, but it's constantly dipping down to like 20 or less frames a second. So I give up. I'm going to play it on my PS5 and I'm going to deal with not being able to cheat, which sucks because I love cheating in games.
Yeah.
So I'm playing it on my PS5. Really good. Really solid game. Excellent. And I'm going to give a very mild spoiler for a 20-plus-year-old game here. But the first time you encounter Pyramid Head, who is, the antagonist,
Right.
you're in an apartment complex, you're walking through the hallways, and there's this one part of the hallway of this apartment complex where there's inexplicably like jail bars just blocking the middle of the hallway so you can't move forward. So it's just metal bars there as if it were a jail for no reason. Makes no sense, but it's Silent Hill, so sure. And one of the times you walk past it, he's just standing there on the other side. And he doesn't react to you. You can shoot at him. He does not care. He just stands there and he stares at you.
Right. Just creeps on you.
Yeah, he just kind of creeps on you as you're walking by, and the next time you walk by, he's not there anymore. And that's it. That's your introduction to him as a character. And also in the Silent Hill series, there is a radio that you get pretty much at the beginning of every game that essentially just alerts you when a enemy is present. If there's an enemy nearby, it makes a static noise. That's how you know they're enemies and you know to look for them. And if they are all dead, the static stops so that you know that you are safe enough to progress. So at any time he's nearby, the radio goes crazy like it should.
Right.
On the PS5 version, they made the radio come through the controller speaker, which is great. It's creepy. That
seems a little unsettling. Yeah,
the controller speaker sucks. It sounds like shit, but that's great for radio static. That's exactly what radio static should sound like. So they moved where the jail bars are that he shows up in. The first bars that I thought he was going to show up in, because that's where he showed up before, didn't happen. Nothing was there. I was like, all right, cool. Maybe I missed him. Maybe I didn't look this direction earlier. Right. And then later I'm walking down a completely unrelated corridor and my controller is going fucking insane with static sound. And I turn the corner and not only is he there, but they've changed the lighting just enough so that like it reflects off of his helmet. So there's just like this bright red light coming from over there. I'm like, oh, there he is. I found him. But the controller speaker was so fucking loud that I couldn't hear my 5.1 surround sound over it. So I paused the game. And like I look at my PS5 system menu and I find the controller volume setting. I already had it less than half.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking online like, is this a glitch? Is there something wrong with the controller speaker volume in Silent Hill 2 Remake? And the first thing I find is a meme some guy posted. And the caption on it is, me talking to my DualSense controller speaker the first time I see Pyramid Head. And it's a video clip of the movie Step Brothers of Will Ferrell saying, "You shut up! I'm so fucking scared right now! You shut up!" And it's perfect. That's exactly the meme they should have found for that. And but it did make me feel less alone to know that just it's really fucking loud there.
Yeah.
But no, it's very good. Really digging on it. If you are interested in horror things, I highly recommend it.
I'm not.
I know you aren't, but I mean, others.
Just because everybody's on it right now, it's exciting. I went and looked at it on Steam, and I'm like, nope, I can't handle this.
I will share with you my favorite Steam review that I saw for it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read it for our audience, but first I'm gonna send you the image so that you can read it along with me.
All right.
But it says, "Hello, I am Gary, and I really enjoyed Silent Hill 2. The hitting enemies with pipe and wood is fun. The fog is very atmosphere. I will play again. Thank, Gary."
Thank Gary.
and I have to say, no, thank you, Gary.
At least Gary liked it.
Yes.
At least put him on XPlay.
Right?
That's a thing still, right? XPlay is the thing. Let's do some news.
Yes, sir.
Some F-Zero games were added. F-Zero GBA games were added to Nintendo Switch Online Plus.
Yep.
Presumably, because there's 2 on GBA, aren't there?
There are.
There's
and they were both added.
2 or 3. So there you go. Get some more F-Zero.
Yep.
Nintendo, remember you F-Zero fans. Yep. Don't worry, you're never going to get a new game.
All right.
But we're going to make F-Zero 99, and we're going to release GBA games, but then that's going to be it.
And don't post video footage of you playing it to YouTube, though.
Right, never do that, because we'll sue you.
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn is getting delisted from some digital PC game marketplaces in advance of the remastered release. Oh, you thought you would buy it on sale or cheap? No, you fools. It's $70 again.
Yep.
You idiots. You're so dumb.
Hey, maybe.
How dare you think that?
Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll sell it for $80 for some reason.
Oh, God. Don't say that. Don't put that in the world. I mean, here's the thing. Games cost $100 to $120.
Yeah.
That's how much they cost.
Well, if
Because
they
it's-
have any kind of DLC anyway.
It's $70 for the dog shit version, and then $120 for the version that comes with all the shit they made for it.
Yeah, Silent Hill 2 was $70, but there was a $90 deluxe edition, and the
Okay.
the deluxe edition came with a rabbit costume head mask that your character could wear the entire game, and
Okay.
also 3 days of early access.
That doesn't really seem worth that amount of money.
$20.
That's a lot of money,
Yeah.
especially when on PC people are just gonna mod the fucking mask in for free
Yes.
anyway. So
Correct.
it kind of seems like bullshit.
Yeah.
Play Magazine, which is a UK publication, is ceasing operations, which is
Another gaming magazine falling by the wayside. It's unfortunate that
Yeah.
we just keep seeing this. I don't know what the and I have this fear for all of traditional print media is I don't
Yeah.
know what their possible economic future is, because I don't see how they survive in the era of internet and free online journalism and reviews and everything.
Yeah.
But I still want this service to happen, because that's where a lot of the best interviews and reviews and breakdowns and everything happen. So
I think, and granted, I don't know how well this magazine is doing.
Yeah.
But like Retro Gamer is a UK magazine,
true.
and it's still well worth picking up because they have good, long form, well written articles and insights by people. Like the way you, because I think the problem isn't that we can't figure out what to put in a gaming magazine. The problem is that for the last 20 years of gaming magazines, the only thing anybody put in them was previews and reviews.
Right.
Which, granted, that was kind of a thing in the 90s too, but there was
Right.
there was some journalism happening, especially in the PC magazine gaming space.
Yeah.
You'd see a lot more kind of editorializing and stuff.
Which
Yeah,
they
so
had
now they'll-
room, since PC Gamer was like 450 pages
Right.
every issue.
And so now they're like, well, what do we put in it? People see the upcoming games on Steam store already. They don't need our
Right.
thing. And it's like, yeah, I guess you'll have to do some actual journalism now. Sorry. And maybe they did in Play. I didn't read Play, so I don't want it to make it sound like
I
I'm
believe
shitting all over Play or whatever.
they did
but-
have some actual articles in there from what I've read.
So
but
it's unfortunate. We're in a
Yeah.
weird period where some old stuff is coming back. Like The Onion has a print edition
Yes.
again. TV
man.
Guide came back, Saturn.
yeah, but it's under new management.
Yeah, but
the
I
company that owns
subscribed.
TV Guide. Oh shit! I think it was Fandom owns TV Guide now.
Oh no. Well, they brought it back, and it's TV Guide magazine.
Yeah. So
I-
Fandom bought TV Guide, and then they spun off TV Guide magazine as a separate company that it technically has not ceased publication
Uh-huh.
since
Uh-huh.
1948.
48?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Anyway, it's like we're in this weird renaissance where like some print stuff is kind of coming back in weird and limited ways.
Yeah.
So we might be starting to get out of the dark age. The question is how much of it is going to collapse before it's
Right.
viable again. And also, when it is viable, will it make all of the money that ever existed? Because that's the only time any of these mega conglomerates
and do
are going
so
to care.
instantly.
Right. It must instantly make all of the money and you own nothing so that they
Right.
can sell it to you again after they delist it and remaster it 5 years after it came out.
Right.
That's the way of things. A Twitch streamer has rolled over NES Tetris from level 255 to level 0 for the first time, which is cool. A very
it's-
young Twitch streamer. I saw the
Right?
picture and I was like, this is like a kid.
Yeah.
A kid did this. This is cool.
I remember his Twitch name that was listed in the article was Dog Playing Tetris, and I was very upset that it was not a dog playing Tetris.
Right. That it was a human being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a dog at all.
Well, maybe the dog consults.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope so.
Silent Hill 2 Remake's wiki page was locked down after irate gamers changed its review scores because we can't fucking have anything nice.
No.
The things the corporations don't fuck up, the chuds show up and they fuck up.
Yeah.
It's
Enforce.
just a
They
chain
show
of
up in
people
force.
fucking stuff up all the way down.
The internet was a mistake, Justin.
Like, I know that Konami would have if they could have, but Konami didn't take your original Silent Hill 2 disc from you guys.
True.
You can still go play it.
They've made it as hard as possible to obtain it.
Also,
But they didn't take
I
it
gotta
from
say this. I gotta say this because I keep seeing these complaints and it drives me insane. A company deciding that they want to change how something is represented in their
Mhm.
art in a new piece of art
Mhm. Mhm.
is not censorship.
Correct.
That is not, by definition, censorship.
Additionally-
Censorship is when the government comes in and says, no, you will change this and
Right.
remove all references to it. It
Uh,
will be taken away. You
Right.
cannot do that.
I would also accept if like a platform holder censored. Like
that
if
would
Sony
also
comes
be,
in and
yeah, if
says,
Sony was like, no, you cannot have
Right.
pyramid heads, thick ass booty in there,
right. Which
you know.
if they couldn't, then 0 out of 0, just throw the game in the trash. You have to have
Right.
thick booty. Anyway,
And so that's what censorship is.
right.
Someone deciding, no, I'm going to change the original representation of my art for this new version because I think it better represents me. I just want to, whatever.
Right.
That's just called an artist making art. You might not like it. You
Yeah.
don't have to like it. You can
Right.
go, that's a fucking bullshit change and you're an idiot for it.
Right.
That's okay. It's kind of rude, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But it's not censorship.
Yeah.
You
Also,
guys.
Even if an artist just wants to modernize something they've done and
Sure.
and let it more accurately reflect current culture instead of the exact moment that it was created in, that's okay. The artist has the ability to do that. And this game specifically had a lot of the original staff involved, and they approved literally every change. In fact, they insisted on other changes that the remakes developers were like, no, we have to keep that original because we want this to be closer to the original. It was the original devs who wanted to change everything. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating. In fact, one of the original devs who couldn't work on the new project because he was involved in some other thing has since taken to social media to say, I didn't work on this new version, but I think it is better than the game that we made. This is what we wanted to make 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
So,
So again,
yeah.
now we're
Fucking
coming into
chud.
a future where companies will indeed take your original version and replace it with their version. It has happened.
Could you imagine if a director were to like only release a new version of their beloved classic movie with a bunch of CG slapped in there?
That would be such censorship, Saturn.
There was a lot of
Anyway.
hate when Lucas did that.
To be fair, that was different because again, it was hard to get the theatricals. Like
Right.
they were difficult to get.
In fairness, it's hard to get Silent Hill 2 right now. Used copies of it are selling for hundreds of dollars.
No, it's on the Pirate Bay right
Yes.
now.
That's
Yeah, I
the
could
difference.
just-
Today, piracy is easy. Back
There you
then,
go.
it was a lot harder.
Modders were able to find in-game credits for the emulator used on the GameCube port of Majora's Mask after 20 years. So that's cool. Finally, some credit where credit is sorely due.
Though
That's a
it
good
is,
thing to
it does
see.
pain me to think of GameCube games as 20 years ago.
Yep. Epic wins lawsuit against Google regarding Google Play. This was a weird thing where they proved that Google colluded.
Right, with the
and
handset manufacturers.
all I can say is good. Again, Tim Sweeney, fucking annoying.
Right.
Epic, I have problems with them, but I don't mind seeing Google losing
Yeah.
lawsuits.
Yeah, I'm all for giant companies being taken down. It does feel weird that this was the first direction that got chipped away because
A little strange.
because Android lets you put whatever fucking store you want on there. You just
Right.
sideload it, and then you have the Amazon store. You have whatever. You have the Humble Games store. You know, whatever store you want to put
Yeah.
on your phone, you can. And Apple doesn't at all, but that's okay.
Right,
That's,
but
that's
Apple
what
didn't.
strikes me as weird.
Well, Apple didn't collude because
Right.
they don't even allow. There's no one to fucking collude with.
Exactly.
Like this.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Nintendo announced a goddamn alarm clock.
$100 alarm clock, Justin.
This is the thing. It's an alarm clock that watches you sleep, which weird. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
a little weird, but not any weirder than the smartwatches everyone's wearing. I've got one,
Right.
sure. And I was looking at it and I was like, okay, it's kind of cute. Sure, I'd pay like $20 for it. It's $100 fucking dollars
But it
for an
has
alarm
motion
clock
sensors, Justin.
that shows you a goddamn Mario JPEG when it wakes you up and
But-
watches you sleep.
Well, did you watch the video of it?
I did watch the video of it.
So as you start to move to get out of bed, it plays different sound effects, like based on your movement.
Yeah. And
And the first thing I thought of was, do you really want to hear coin sounds when you're having sex?
I
Don't answer that, Justin.
Ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding. I'm torn on this. One, cool. It's a cool, fun, cute thing, but they immediately made it shitty and weird by making it $100, making it so that pre-orders are only open to Nintendo Switch Online members.
Now, they did say it's going to hit wide release and retailers.
Okay. That's
and
something.
They don't plan on making it limited. It's supposed to be a wide release item. They also said it does not work if you have a partner in bed with you. It is for people who sleep alone only, and no pets in bed either, because that can mess it up.
Okay, so it's a $100 alarm clock that doesn't work then.
Right, yeah.
I mean, fuck. It's dumb. I'm done with it. Former hubba former Humble Games staff have formed a new indie publishing studio called Good Games Group. Will also take over support for existing Humble Games releases. This is what we like to see. This is a good thing. They're doing good work. I'm glad that
we were all pretty worried when Ziff Davis shut down Humble Games, because there were a lot of games that hadn't come out yet, and a lot of games that had come out that suddenly had no one around to support them. And so these guys said that they talked to Ziff Davis, and Ziff Davis has allowed this new studio of their former employees to basically take all that over.
Yeah. The Emu Deck Mini PC crowd fundraising campaign ended with only 6 backers. We reported on this. It looked cute. I was, tangentially interested in it. But
it looked like a tiny Dreamcast.
It does. It looks like a little tiny Dreamcast. Here's the thing, though, is that there are like literally hundreds of mini PCs in this category on the market right now, all of which can run Emu Deck depending on how you set them up.
And most of them are cheaper than this.
It did seem a little like a weird product in a pretty flooded category,
right?
But also 6 people. That's just, man.
That's rough.
That is rough. That's got to really make you rethink a lot of your decisions. So that's kind of a bummer for that team to have to go through that. They're going through the process of refunding the 6 people.
At least that's a fast process.
At least it is. Yeah. Until Dawn launched on PS5 with even fewer players than Concord. I don't keep up with these fucking games anymore. I don't even know what the fuck Concord is.
Concord was a games as a service that Sony released that they had like a 25-minute trailer for in a state of play like 8-9 months ago, maybe a year ago, and it clearly wanted to be Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game.
Yeah.
It is very, very, very clearly Marvel's live action shooter. And it failed. It failed real hard to the point that Sony discontinued it and removed it from sale and said that they will later re-release it as a free-to-play game. Until Dawn, on the other hand, is a full-price, single-player, offline experience with no DLC.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a remaster of a PS4 game that is full price, that does not have an upgrade path from the PS4 version, and apparently it is doing even worse than Concord did. I have to wonder if Sony is starting to reevaluate some things right now.
I mean, I'm just over it. I think the greed and the bullshit, like, if your game has seasons, then it's effectively an MMO.
Yeah, that was.
And
Concord,
we don't all have space for 1,000 MMOs. At the same time, we don't all want to rebuy every game every generation for the same fucking game.
My guess as to why they re-released it is because there's about to be a movie or a TV show or something based on it.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to cash in on that hype like they did with The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Just they were a little more transparent about it this time with a less popular franchise.
I think there's a lot of people just getting fucking over it. We're just like, I don't have time for another live service game. I don't have the money for $70 for a game I just played 4 years ago.
Right.
It's just
too
fucking
these
much.
Remasters of PS4 era games, I am over that. I don't know why Sony thinks we need so many of them. Like when they announced The Last of Us Part 1's remaster, everybody kind of mocked it, but I guess it sold well enough that they just kept pumping them out.
Well, the difference is that The Last of Us is one of the most critically acclaimed games in the entire universe.
Yeah, and the PS4 version of it was itself a port of the PS3 version, so I guess there was a little more room for it to have improved.
Yeah.
But these games that were PS4 original that already play on the PS5, I'm just really struggling to see the point.
Why? Yeah. And finally, Xbox will sell games directly via the Xbox mobile app starting in November. Oh boy.
This is a result of Epic's lawsuit against Google. Because now they don't have to use Google Pay as part of it, so they're going to start selling them.
Cool. I don't know why I'd buy an Xbox game in the Xbox mobile app, but sure. Okay. Okay, Microsoft.
Well, you're already browsing all the games on your phone like you do all the time, right?
Yeah, you totally.
Yeah.
Totally, that's a thing that
I'm just
doing.
constantly sitting around like, I wonder if I could look at the Xbox store right now while I'm at the airport.
Which brings us to our topic at hand, which is Portal. In Saturn, you put an important question in the notes. If we're covering this, does that make the cake is a lie joke retro too? First of all, yes, it does. Portal is retro.
Yeah.
It is very old now.
Yeah.
It's an old game for
it is
old
nearly
people.
20 years old.
It came out when I was in high school. High
So
school,
you're pretty young
everyone.
now.
I'm a 36-year-old man. I have a child and a wife. I'm
Yeah,
a
you're
grown-ass
pretty young.
fucking adult. It came out when I was in high school.
Yeah. You're
Okay.
pretty young.
It's retro. You keep saying it.
Yeah,
It's not going to change.
I know people who were married and had a child when they were 22. So that on its own doesn't mean anything. But yeah,
True,
it was
but
17 years
I was in
ago.
high school. I'm 36 now.
Yeah, it was 17 years ago.
And I'm very excited. We had like this moment where I don't remember who mentioned it, but one of us was like, we could do Portal. And then we were both like, is that retro? And then we seemed excited that it was.
Yeah.
So this is an exciting moment for me because, spoiler, I like Portal. It's a good game. Release info, developed and published by Valve back when they, made games.
They just released a new game, didn't they?
What did they just release?
I don't remember what it was, but it was like some not Half-Life game.
Then who cares? What did they? I mean, they did Counter-Strike 2 a little while back, a few months ago, but that's just kind of Counter-Strike more.
Now, I feel like in the last month or two, I had read that they had just released something or were releasing something in early access or something.
I know they did. They did
Deadlock.
Half-Life Alyx.
Deadlock is Valve's new hero shooter MOBA game, and beta testing started in August of 2024.
No, Saturn, a real game, not a free-to-play
okay.
hero shooter MOBA
right,
game.
right.
Those are just You're just saying buzzwords. Do they have synergies and power beads too? Like
Probably,
those
yeah.
are just fucking words you put out there. Initial console ports were published by EA. Came out on Android TV, Switch, and their RTX releases. These were all done by NVIDIA.
Mhm.
The original release was in the orange box.
Yep.
Which was on PC and Xbox 360 October 10th, 2007. Which was right at the end of high school for me. PS3 came out December 11th, 2007. The Still Alive re-release, which was published by Microsoft, hit Xbox 360 in October of 2008. It hit macOS in 2010, Linux in 2013. Android TV is delisted, but it released in 2014. Switch in 2022, and the RTX remaster in 2022 as well. First Encounters. I played this when it came out.
Yeah.
So I remember the orange box vividly.
Yeah.
And I think, did we do an episode on the orange box?
No.
Is that why I'm... No,
we did an episode on
should.
Half-Life.
That must be... I don't know. Anyway, Orange Box came out. And I was moving out. Me and my girlfriend... I graduated high school in May of that year. And me and my girlfriend were going to move out together, but our apartment wasn't ready for a couple weeks. My mom also moved out at the time with her boyfriend. She moved out before me. So my friend came over to my house, and we had like a week. I have no school, and we just live in my empty, furnitureless house for a week, and we both set up our PCs next to each other.
Yeah.
And Orange Box had just came out.
Yeah.
And it just so happened, like there was something, like I was between jobs or took time off, or I don't remember what it was, but we basically just sat and did teenager things and played Orange Box for a fucking week.
Nice.
And Peggle.
Yeah.
And that was all we did. We just lived it for a week. And so I vividly remember playing Portal the first time. I remember how much fun it was. It was a full-on, we didn't call them memes then, but it was an internet sensation.
Oh, yeah.
And immediately entered the kind of gamer lexicon.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a big deal, and it was fun as shit.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. So that was my first encounter, is playing it in my mostly abandoned house. Because, of course, all my stuff was packed up because I was moving the next week.
Yeah, I think you
So it was
told
just-
part of that story on our Peggle episode, or on our PopCap episode.
Yeah,
we
it
were
was
talking
just
about Peggle.
2 computer desks, Peggle and Orange Box.
Nice.
And that's all we did for a whole week.
Yeah,
And
I
it
had,
was very fun.
I had no interest in Orange Box because I don't care for first-person games.
Mhm.
So I had just ignored it. Plus, I didn't have my computer could barely handle it, and I didn't have a Xbox or a PS3 yet. So I was generally uninterested. But then a friend of ours, because I was living with my ex at the time, brought over her PS2 and Rock Band, which I already had a PS2, so I don't know why she had to bring all that over, but she did. And she had Still Alive on there. And we played it, and I was like, that's pretty funny. And she was like, well, you've played the game, right? I'm like, no. And then she pulls up a YouTube video to show me the ending of Portal, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm interested in that. And then when I finally saw Portal on its own on PC at a actual physical game store, I went ahead and bought the disc of Portal and brought it home and installed it. And I didn't get the orange box until many years later when it was on sale for $1. Because that's how much I value TF2 and Half-Life. That's my take. That's $1 worth. But Portal was absolutely worth the $20 I paid for it, because I played the shit out of that.
I bought the Xbox 360 physical version of Orange Box earlier this year.
Nice.
That play
still plays on the Xbox One, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. That's why I bought it, to play it on my Xbox One. Step us through the kind of weird development of Portal.
So it started really in 2005. There was a freeware game called Narbacular Drop.
That's a word.
That is a word. It was developed by students at DigiPen, which you never hear about DigiPen anymore. But I feel like DigiPen was like everywhere between like 2000 and 2008.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah, it was like the school people wanted to go to for video game design, and now I don't even hear about it.
Yeah.
But
they still exist.
Yeah, they're still there.
I think a lot of schools just because back then you didn't have game design programs at schools.
Yeah,
they were just barely starting to kick off. Now I think a lot of universities offer game design friendly programs.
Yeah. Then you had to go to DigiPen if you wanted that.
Right. Now you just take a class on Unity and then a class on predatory marketing. And you're good. That's it. You're done.
On non-decency.
Yeah.
So the original Narbacular Drop was fantasy themed, and you would place these magic portals that you could move between. Did you ever play Narbacular Drop?
I haven't played it. I've seen some of it where you play the little pink-haired lady and you're making portals and kind of solving puzzles. Yeah.
And then the portals look like giant, like gargoyle mouth
like
kind
faces.
of things.
Yeah.
And also the cool thing in the original that you can't do in the real Portal is you could place another portal through a portal. So you could just keep moving your destination by staring through that one portal.
Yeah.
Which was neat. You can't do that in the actual game. But as they were showing off this at DigiPen, Valve's Robin Walker happened to see it at a career fair, and was impressed enough that he invited the devs of the game to come make a proper pitch at Valve to Gabe. And after that presentation, Gabe offered the team jobs at Valve to further flesh out the concept and make a full game out of it. And that's how they got on board with Valve. So at Valve, they decided they wanted to switch from fantasy aesthetic to more of a sci-fi aesthetic. The early builds of the game had a lot more interactable objects all over the place in every test chamber, but they found that playtesters would just start playing with those, thinking they were somehow going to help solve the puzzle and never actually find the actual solution. So they kept removing things until everything looked and felt very sterile. So they just went with that.
Right. Which became kind of the vibe.
Right.
Is like hospital waiting room.
Yeah. Which, by the way, if anybody wants to know more about the development of the game, there is a development commentary track built into the game that you can play through the entire thing.
Which is really interesting. They also have that for Half-Life 2.
True, yeah.
Which it not only teaches you a lot about game design and a lot about kind of the subtle psychology of it,
right?
But it's also just super interesting.
Oh yeah, and it taught me a couple of cheats and tricks that I didn't catch the first time I played through the game, where they were like, this was an unintended solution that a lot of people found, so we made it slightly harder for people to notice it. And then after they say it, I'm like, well, now I have to try that. But yeah, so the early playtesters liked the game, but they felt like there was no like destination, like nothing was building up to anything. It was just a series of tests, and then the game was over. So they wanted some sort of driving narrative. So they got Eric Wolpaw, who was, I believe, working at Valve already at the time on the Half-Life series, but he had previously also written for Psychonauts at LucasArts. And he had, during the development of Psychonauts, been playing with text-to-speech on his computer and he kept plugging dumb shit into there, and everybody would laugh at it in the office. And he had said that he was disappointed when he realized that people were more amused by the AI robot voice than they were by his actual writing, and it upset him. So he stopped using the text to speech.
Yeah.
But then when they were working on Portal, he was like, that robot voice that everybody thought was funny, maybe that would be a good narrative device in this AI, sterile lab environment thing. So he used that as the basis of what would eventually become GLaDOS, though they did actually bring an actual actress in to do all the lines. And as they continued work on the game, they just kept adding more and more lines for GLaDOS because of how much the playtesters were responding to GLaDOS, and that it ended up developing a character, and the players said that they felt like her robotic voice was somewhat sinister, so they played with that, and they just made her a little more sinister as the game progressed. Originally, the game was supposed to have a third section of the game, in addition to the test chambers and the back area. There was supposed to be a office area where you would actually run through the Aperture offices, and you would meet the Rat Man in person. And they just killed it because they thought it was kind of boring, and they didn't want to have another character in there. They wanted to streamline it. The companion cube was specifically added because that puzzle that has the companion cube in it requires you to just keep carrying that cube with you throughout the level, and people kept abandoning it and thinking, oh, I solved a puzzle with it, so I don't need this anymore, and then going on and getting stuck and confused because they didn't realize they could have brought it with them to the next puzzle. So they made this whole idea about the companion cube, and they leaned on psychological studies of how people get attached to inanimate objects and wrote the entire bit about that. Really preying on people's emotions.
Yeah.
And it works. I mean, obviously. It also acted as a tutorial for the incinerators, because when playtesters tried the boss fight the first time, they had no idea what any of that was. So by adding that bit into the end of the companion cube level, it taught them how to use the incinerators, and also tugged at our heartstrings. So, it's
and also spawned a ton of merchandise.
Yeah.
The amount of companion cubes for sale.
Yeah. I have a companion cube rug in my living room right now.
Yeah. Companion cubes. And it really was in the game for mere minutes.
Yes. A level. And also the ending.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Just right there at the end. Let's talk story.
Okay.
This is very much a game that tells its story with the environment.
Yes.
You have GLaDOS there,
right.
and you can kind of get some tips and information from her from time to time.
Right.
But for the most part, the game very much puts you in this sterile environment that becomes increasingly sinister, creepy, weird, broken.
Yeah. Most of what GLaDOS is telling you is instructions. It's not narrative. I mean,
but every now and then there's little things peppered in there where you're like, oh, is that relevant? But then GLaDOS is also very much established early on as not a reliable source of anything.
True.
She's constantly lying to you, tricking you, making things up, calling you fat.
First of all, she clearly said she would stop lying to you after that one test chamber. So I don't know why you think she's lying.
But what I love is the game really kind of fluctuates between really fast sometimes, like almost like Wile E. Coyote level shit.
Yeah.
And not quite, but almost horror. I'd say like suspense, maybe.
Yeah.
Would be a more accurate term.
There's some dread in there every now and then.
Yeah, it never really gets scary.
No.
But there's these moments where you're like, oh, this is kind of creepy.
It definitely gets uncomfortable.
Yeah. So in the beginning, you play as Chell, who I don't think you're named within the game at all.
Yeah, I don't think that in the game it mentions her name at all.
And you just kind of wake up in this sterile lab-like environment greeted by GLaDOS.
Yeah.
And early on in the game, they play things pretty straight-laced. For a level or two, nothing's really broken or strange, and
Yeah.
it just kind of descends into madness
Yeah.
quickly from there. You are in Aperture Laboratories.
Yeah.
You woke up from some kind of like fucking pod. They don't really ever establish what it is.
Some sort of
Um,
cryopod of some sort.
Yeah, and it becomes increasingly clear that something has gone wrong in Aperture Laboratories.
Yeah.
That GLaDOS is kind of like either a final survivor or possibly cause of some kind of disaster that has happened.
Right.
And you also get the sense that you're not sure how much time has passed, how long it has been since Aperture Laboratories was actually a functioning science lab before
Right.
things went full on Looney Tunes
Yeah.
at some juncture. But the game introduces you to the portal gun pretty slowly.
Yep.
You get the blue portal, and then you get the orange portal later. And it does a really good job kind of tutorializing you and getting you familiar with how GLaDOS is going to treat you throughout things.
It's a
as
good
you,
way
as
to
you go
phrase
through it. Yeah. And then the jokes kind of start coming in. You start seeing lots and lots and lots of mentions of cake.
Yes.
There will be cake at the end.
Yeah.
If you finish all these test chambers, there's going to be cake. It's going to happen.
And it's really just a great narrative device, because clearly these tests are deadly. These are tests
Yes.
that can kill you. And they're
right,
like,
laser beams, machine guns.
and vats of acid. And they're
Right,
like,
they try
"But
to dump you into some fire a few times.
They're like, but if you succeed, you get cake. Like, oh,
And-
all right then.
The game is only about 3 hours long. And really even 3 hours is kind of a long. I mean, I think I did it in 2 maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not very
Yeah, it's a
long at
short game.
all. But pretty quickly you start finding sections of these test chambers that are broken.
Yeah.
And you can get into these little nooks and crevices, and you find out that there were at some point in time other survivors that have written things on the wall. Mostly they wrote "the cake is a lie," and they draw little pictograms that sometimes help you, sometimes just kind of warn you about the danger that you're in being
Sometimes
here.
they tell you not to trust GLaDOS and things like that.
You never encounter whoever put these things there.
The Rat Man.
You don't really know how long they've been there.
The comic book that was released after the fact explained it all, but
Yeah.
in the game, no, there's no explanation.
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're able to break out of this kind of test chamber environment,
Mhm.
and you're kind of running around the fucking vent, chamber, the steam room behind
Right.
all of this.
Yeah.
Which eventually culminates in you making your way. And the whole time, GLaDOS can talk to you, and she
Oh, yeah.
is ridiculing you mercilessly.
Yeah, she is both insulting you and angry at you.
GLaDOS is a wonderful representation of like a severely toxic relationship. And it really struck me playing through the game again for this show
Yeah.
how much she feels like an extremely toxic partner.
Yeah.
Like these compliment sandwiches with insults in the middle.
Yeah. A lot of
you know,
gaslighting.
A lot of gaslighting.
Yeah.
Like you really start to feel it.
And it's even better in the second game, because that's when she starts calling you fat and an orphan.
Yeah, well,
that's-
she calls you fat in the first
Does
one. She's
she?
like, oh, yeah. There's one moment where she's like, oh, our last test subject solved this immediately. Although you're a bit heavier than they were, like something like that. Where you like, she didn't say fat, but she was heavy. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh, what the?
Yeah, it's it's rough.
And so it's basically just this descent into madness that culminates in the game's only boss fight.
Yeah.
Which is you coming
Only
face to
encounter
face.
whatsoever aside from turrets.
Yeah. Coming face to face with GLaDOS,
Mhm.
and you basically break off her various cores,
Yeah.
each of which seems to be a different aspect of her personality.
Yeah.
So as you break these cores off, one of them's like feral and angry, and one of them's nice and complimentary.
Yeah.
and
One of them just
it gives
counts at you.
it gives you a better idea of kind of this aggregate of consciousnesses that constitutes GLaDOS.
Right.
And then she explodes, and that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
And you're done. And
get
you wake
knocked
up.
outside.
You get knocked outside, and you wake up in a parking lot, and then all of a sudden you begin getting dragged.
And granted, that didn't happen originally.
Did it not?
No, in the original release, you just wake up and you see that you're outside, and then it just fades out. It wasn't until after they had announced Portal 2 that they released an update to the original to have you get dragged back in.
Oh, I guess I didn't remember before the drag.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wake up outside, and then it cuts to one of the most famous credit sequences in all of video gamedom, which is like an amber on black terminal of the credit sequence playing Jonathan Coulton's song, Still Alive, which is, to begin with, just a really good song.
Oh, yeah. Well, Coulton's great.
And it's got the lyrics and everything, and then it finally, the song is also part of the story.
Yes.
And indicates that GLaDOS is actually happy you left because she didn't like you anyway, and you sucked, and she's still alive, and they're going to eat so much cake without you, is basically the gist of the song. And I think that's what makes it so memorable, is that the song is more story
than most of the game.
Then you cut to, at the last thing you see is this like storage room at the bottom of the complex, and there is indeed a cake there.
Yeah.
And so the game's promise was true. The cake was not a lie. It is there. It exists. So, were you going to get it? No, probably not ever. But it is there.
One of the developers had mentioned that the cake in the game is modeled after a Black Forest cake that they got at a local bakery nearby the Valve office. And after they revealed that in, I think it was the developer commentary when they first revealed that bakery just got inundated with orders from all over the internet, people wanting that exact Black Forest cake, to the point to where it is now their most popular cake.
And then you see cores that constituted GLaDOS lighting up in this kind of like warehouse chamber, and it's kind of
them.
The realization that like that amalgamation of GLaDOS cores was only one, and there are potentially others, and of course eventually leads into Portal 2.
Right.
But the story is extremely well told. It's interesting. It's funny. Even after all these years, I still laugh playing it.
Oh yeah. The writing is brilliant.
It's just so well done.
And it's a shame that there aren't more well-written comedy games out there. That's always frustrating to me, that more people aren't trying to do good comedy in gaming. Because Portal showed us that it's definitely possible.
It reminded me so much of, and I had forgotten about this game until I was playing this, the Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
Is another fantastic...
I was just playing that last year. It came out on console.
Comedy game. It's so good.
Yeah.
And Portal very much kind of laid that groundwork. It felt different. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a first-person kind of puzzle platformer game. Right. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
But the set dressing, the story is so well told. It does not overstay its welcome. I mean, you could tell that they're like, hey, we did everything we could really think of, and now here's the end of the game. It's only a few hours long, but this is what we got. And I remember getting through it and not feeling like, oh, it was only 2-3 hours long.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, this is just really good. I don't even care.
Yeah, like I remember when I first finished it, I was like, I could use more of that, but I don't know what more I would want.
Yeah, and now of course they have like bonus levels and stuff that you can play, and then obviously Portal 2 exists, and it's
and isn't there a editor that you can download to make your own levels for it?
I think so.
Maybe that's for the second one. I don't remember.
If not, it's in the Source Engine. You can figure it out.
Right.
Speaking of presentation, this is a Source Engine game.
Yes.
Which means all of the things that Source Engine brings to the table, this brings to the table.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
Means it basically looks just like Skibidi Toilet.
Oh no. It looks like Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
It's the same engine. We didn't even mention that in the game, in the song at the end, they mention Black Mesa, which ties Aperture Laboratories to the Half-Life universe.
Yep.
Before that, within the game proper, there's really no mention.
Oh, there is.
Or reference. Is there?
Yeah, when you're going through the back areas, one of the conference rooms you can go to has a little projector pointed at a projection screen, and it's talking about how they're competing with Black Mesa and how stupid the people Black Mesa are.
Well, there you go. 2 ties to the wider Half-Life universe. Sound-wise, it's mostly metal conking noises and Portal noises is 90% of the sound.
There's some music. There's some music in the background.
There's the one track that's always playing on the radio. It's the elevator waiting room music.
Well, it's a Muzak version of Still Alive.
Yeah, and then there's obviously Still Alive, but not a lot of music.
There's some very low key music in the background of places.
I guess I hadn't even noticed it.
It's pretty minimal. It makes Breath of the Wild's music seem very in your face. That's how minimal it is.
A lot of it is GLaDOS is talking so much that she's kind of the background music. She's the thing you listen to, and gives you some reprieve. Because some of the puzzles in this game are kind of tough. Even this time around, one of them I spent 20 minutes on it. And I love about, I don't remember. I want to say it was Chamber. It was one of those ones where like I sat there for 20 minutes and then I was like, oh, the answer is really, really simple, and I'm just kind of dumb and forgot how the physics of the game work. Right. I guess I want to say it was Chamber 19, which is one of the really long sections, so that doesn't narrow it down at all. Yeah. But yeah, I love the sound effects in the game. The metal conking noises are extremely iconic. I think they're probably the same ones used in Half-Life, but they're very iconic. Gameplay wise, this is it's so good.
Oh yeah.
It's very good. It introduces every little thing to you piecemeal.
Yeah.
The game gives you one half of the portal gun and then the other half. It shows you how to put an item on a button. It shows you how to move items around, how to carry items with you. Each successive test.
The first half of the game or so is effectively just a series of tutorials, but they don't feel that much like tutorials. The earliest ones do. But once you get
like
past
the
those
first two chambers, maybe. Yeah. Once you get the full portal gun with both portals, the blue and the orange, it doesn't feel like a tutorial anymore.
But it's still basically a tutorial even at that point. It just doesn't feel like it as much.
Yeah. And learning to manipulate the portals is not only super enjoyable, but it's interesting, it's challenging. There are moments where it's like you kind of have to. Every time I play Portal 1 or 2, there's moments where it's like I forget how the fucking physics work. And I'm like, and then I go, oh, okay, yeah, no, I got it. Really, right when the tutorial is kind of ending, they've introduced their very last thing that they want you to do between like powering switches and stuff with little floaty energy orbs and moving platforms and things, is when the game starts to break down and you bust out of the testing chambers. It's when the, in air quotes, real game starts.
Yeah, Chamber 20.
Which comprises kind of the back third of it, really.
Right.
But most of the game itself is moving objects around, using portals to get to different areas and move objects where they need to be, to press buttons and pull levers and open panels and turn switches to progress forward through these testing chambers. Which I think would be a really interesting puzzle game without the story, without GLaDOS.
True, yeah.
But would not be... We
memorable.
wouldn't be sitting here talking about it today, I don't think.
Yeah, it wouldn't be memorable at all without all the color and the flavor added.
I think also, I remember the first time I played, there were a couple chambers that I just spent a long time on. And they were... There's one chamber in particular I can think of where it's like multiple successive platforms, and it's almost it's one of the few areas of the game that are kind of reflex based.
Yeah,
where you just kind of have to shoot portals as you're falling in the right spot.
Yeah, I know
to eject you upward where you need to be.
Yep.
That one I remember being really tough. But most of the game you can be kind of slow and methodical with it.
Yeah.
Every now and then it wants you to shoot some portals on the fly, and those are kind of the really tough, challenging parts of it.
Yeah, those are really the only platforming segments. The rest of it is relatively slower paced. The parts I have the biggest problem with are any of the parts with the turrets. Anytime those little bastards are shooting at me, I start having a problem.
Yeah, there are turrets, and they talk, and they have little children's voices.
Yes.
And they're like, I see you. And then they shoot you with a machine gun.
Yeah. And then you break them and they say, I don't blame you.
Yeah. And they're really the only sentience you encounter outside of GLaDOS. I mean, sentience, only speaking thing outside of GLaDOS. And they add a lot of charm to the game.
Yeah. I think it's the same voice actress.
I would imagine so. Yeah. Yeah, definitely different affectation, but I think the same voice actress, which I don't think we wrote down her name and I forgot it. So
I've got it somewhere.
Sorry, Ellen McLean.
Yeah,
thank you.
I did have it in the notes, but it's later.
But yeah, one of my favorite moments, and you put in here in the notes, is what is supposed to be the last test chamber. basically just funnels you into an incinerator. And then when you get out, GLaDOS has to be like, oh, obviously you solved our final test, which was us pretending like we were going to incinerate you. Good job.
Yeah.
Clearly we weren't going to do that.
Now, if you could please return to the incinerator.
And I mean, kind of gameplay wise, that's kind of it. I mean, it's really solid. It's really fun. If you've never played Portal, my God, go play it.
It's on
but
everything these days, so go find it.
It is. It really is everywhere.
Actually, I don't think
And
it's on PlayStation at all anymore.
It's one of the few instances where, the story and the narrative being told to you is as important as the gameplay, and they do not function well without one another. It really is
They complement each other very well.
An extremely good pairing of narrative storytelling using the environment tied to gameplay specifically, and it's a rarity.
Yeah,
frustratingly enough, a rarity in gaming to see story so tied and integrated with gameplay like this, and it's a real treat. Even after all these years, it still feels honestly innovative.
Yeah,
the way they tell the story in the game, and the way the game progresses, and the way it's all kind of tied together is just extremely. It's innovative. It's exciting to see that and to feel that,
And I wish more companies had learned that lesson and taken from it.
Yeah. Anyway, here's a cutscene. We're going to stop the game entirely so you can watch a movie now. That's what you wanted, right? A movie to watch. As far as reception, it was extremely well received.
Oh yeah.
People fucking loved this game.
Yeah.
And you put it in the notes. I'm glad you put it there. It was kind of like, oh, Orange Box is coming out. All these cool games, Team Fortress 2, and also this weird fucking Portal thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And then a week later, it was like, no, you buy Orange Box for Portal.
Right.
Because Portal is that good.
Yeah, because prior to the Orange Box's release, everybody was like, this is a package that has the sequel to Team Fortress and a new episode of Half-Life 2 and some other thing, but you just need to get those two games. And then after it came out, everybody was like, actually, Portal might have been the best part of that.
Yeah. I mean, granted, Team Fortress 2 also really good and has a hell of a legacy. It's still going.
Still around today,
I still fire it up every once in a while and go play engineer and run around hammering my turrets. I feel like Half-Life 2 Episode 2 is slightly less well remembered.
Hammering my turrets sounds wrong.
What, you like hammering your turrets, Saturn?
Just out here hammering my turrets.
As far as legacy, the amount of memes, in-jokes, just kind of gamer culture that spawned out of Portal is kind of staggering, considering that it's a 2.5-hour game. I mean, it's as long as any Marvel movie now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
how much this really defined a lot of like PC gaming and geek culture at the time.
It was during that earliest era of memes, really, because it was as the internet was becoming more widely used, as social media was starting to really take off, and as nerd culture was starting to surround all of this. So
before nerd culture got insanely insufferable.
Yeah.
All these years later. Where now it's like I can't stand it. It's just this is very much in the oh my God, spoon zombies pirates era of nerd culture.
Yeah, that's true.
I could feel how disappointed you are that I brought it up.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was not a part of any of that part.
Very much steeped in that particular era of nerd culture. I was 18 years old. I was in the thick of it, man. Yeah. I was right there. We mentioned all the merch. ThinkGeek had a ton of merch.
Oh yeah.
The Portal merch still pops up every once in a while. You can still find it in places.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, the game had, there was Portal 2.
Yep.
There was a Bridge Constructor Portal. There was After Desk Job. There was the lab. The Portal is kind of, the Portal universe gets to kind of exist as its own kind of like, hey, what if Half-Life was really silly?
Yeah.
Kind of universe inside of Valve.
I'm upset that 14 years later, we still don't have a Portal 3, though.
Yeah, I know this show's about Portal 1, but Portal 2 is so perfect a game that I kind of don't even care.
Right.
Everything that Portal 1 is and does, Portal 2 is that, but more, but better.
Yes.
And as much as I think Portal is absolutely, objectively a masterpiece of art, of game design, Portal 2 is as much.
Yeah, they just did it again, but better.
So I need to go play Portal 2, man. Now I'm like thinking about it. But honestly, it's like I'm kind of okay with it because they're such perfect games.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't want to have a third game come along and ruin it.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. If they can do Portal 2 but better,
oh yeah,
cool. I just don't even know what the fuck, how. You know what I mean?
They would have to have some additional mechanic in addition to the portals and the gels. There would have to be a third thing,
like a third portal.
I don't know what it would be.
Oh my god. There were some knockoff games. Do you want to talk about some of those?
Quantum Conundrum is the first one that comes to mind. Did you play that?
I did not. No.
It was it was a puzzle platformer in the first person, and that's about all it had in common gameplay wise. But it had a narrator. Only instead of GLaDOS, it was John Delancey, who plays Q on Star Trek. He was your uncle and also a scientist, and they were trying to make the game more kid friendly. And the ending credits also had a theme that they thought was going to become a thing, only it was terrible. And I think Square Enix put it out, of all people.
Yeah.
It's not great, but there was a handful of games like that were trying to like get on the bandwagon and have their big ending credits song that they thought was going to become the next big thing, and try to squeeze in some memes here and there, and
meme-worthy stuff.
Yeah. And they tried to ride that bandwagon. I don't think any of them were successful in any way.
Yeah. Apparently, J.J. Abrams says he's still working on a movie. Version of Portal, which I'm sorry, buddy, you missed the boat.
Yeah. Apparently,
although I would have said you missed the boat on Star Trek too, but what the fuck do I know? Right. Apparently, so
apparently they've been working on a Portal movie off and on since 2013, and it is not.
They already have a Portal movie, Saturn. It's called Cube. They made a sequel. It's called Cube 2 Hypercube. If you've ever wanted to see a Rubik's Cube cut a man in half, now's your chance. Yeah. Also, the game, legacy-wise, gave us so many great quotes. Yeah. I don't think anything beats the Lemons quote from Portal 2, which I can't even remember.
Also, J.K. Simmons' delivery as Cave Johnson absolutely sells Portal 2. What a fantastic delivery.
As far as final thoughts, please go play Portal. It is both truly both of them, yes. But they're both masterpiece level games. That like if I had a fine art museum or like they're like, hey, we want to put video games in a fine art museum, I'd be like, all right, you need Mario 3, you need Portal, you need Bad Dudes, put them all in there on the wall. They're all masterpieces.
And both Portals are available on PC, Xbox, and Switch, and
they're everywhere,
and PlayStation 3. You can't play them on PS4 or 5. But they're everywhere else but PlayStation.
Yeah, so absolutely go play it. It's just a fantastic game.
Yeah,
you can almost always get it dirt cheap. It's only a couple. Like if you have time to sit through the newest Marvel movie, you have more than enough time to play the entirety of Portal.
Right.
And it's just, god damn it, it's so good. If you play it and you're like, that was amazing, but I wish everything was cranked up to 150, play Portal 2. Because there you go. Aperture Desk Job is also surprisingly fun and cute. I mean, it's not really a game.
I haven't gotten to it yet. I downloaded it, but I haven't messed with it.
It's real fun. It's real fun. It's real funny. It's cute. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I did play some of Bridge Constructor Portal. Did you ever play that one?
I did not play that one. No, I skipped that one.
It's more of a vanilla puzzle game and less of a narrative adventure like Portal is, but you do still have GLaDOS there to make fun of you from time to time.
Yeah, well, that's always nice.
Right.
That's always nice. You know what else you have, Saturn?
What, Justin?
Our Patreon.
Oh no!
At patreon.com/Retro Warriors is the URL, which stands for Universal Real Location of our website, which is the Patreon.
You don't know what URL stands for.
I don't know. No, what does it stand for?
Uniform Resource Locator.
Oh, fuck off. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. I've already forgotten it, in fact. I'm going to keep my definition.
Okay.
If I had said it more confidently, everyone would have believed me, too. Nobody knows that one. Nobody. And we want to thank the following patrons for their kind donations, starting with Fartbutt.
And no, I have no tomatoes. I have no tomatoes today.
The Mayo Clinic.
Very nice of them to donate to it.
Thanks, Mayo Clinic.
Rantic.
I'm not giving my name to a machine.
Video Rangers podcast.
Our producer Guy.
Luke Saracen Clark.
Matthew Giroux.
And Mark Bowler.
All gave us money. And
Yay.
you can be like them and also give us money.
I'd
And
like
then-
to thank whoever put the tomatoes reference in there. That was very kind of them. That's my favorite quote from the first Dragon Quest.
We will allow you to give us money at any juncture, and you can get Talking Wizards
even if
and
you're
Read
the Mayo
Along and
Clinic.
other shit. Even if you're the Mayo Clinic. We'll take money from the Mayo Clinic. Yeah. I don't care.
I'm not going to take money from the Mayo Clinic. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll take money from it. Yeah, they want to give me money? Yes. Yes,
they're
thank you,
working on
please.
serious diseases.
They can spare $1 a month for Talking Wizards. Saturn. Diseases will still be there in the morning. Saturn.
Not if they're working on it.
Well, look, they need entertainment for their late work nights where they gotta work, looking in petri dishes and holding microscopes and shit, all that stuff they do. Sciencey shit. Do what?
Is that what they do?
Yeah, that's scientists. They wear the coats and they like dissect molds and shit. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I'm a podcaster. I don't know what real people do for real work. I have no idea. No idea what the real world is like.
At my work, at my office in the production area, we all have to wear ESD smocks, so it makes us all look like cartoon laboratory scientists.
Yeah.
We're all just wearing white smocks all the time, and every time that I see people walking through the regular area, and I'm like, oh, the important doctors are here.
You ever think about showing up with your own rat in a cheese maze for it? See if anyone
Yeah.
stops you.
I mean, I also have to wear the smock sometimes whenever I'm down on the floor. So
Right, that's
We're
what
all
I'm
just-
saying. You show up with a rat in
Yeah,
a cheese maze and
right,
see if
yeah.
anyone stops you.
yeah, I'm
Just
sure
be
that'll,
like, it's
go
it's
great.
just doing some research here. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.